So weird. I'm not used to actually hearing the intro. Anyways, welcome everyone to the Infernal Brotherhood of the Scruffy-looking Nerf herders. This is a live streaming video podcast by Star Wars fans for Star Wars fans, and today we are going to be finishing whatever our review of the wonderful, the amazing Thrawn trilogy by Timothy Zahn. Today we are doing book 3, The Last Command.
Dun dun dun. Oh
Yeah.
shit! You know what I forgot?
Hi, I'm Timothy Zahn, and I'm a scruffy-looking Nerf herder.
Damn right you are.
Fuck
Damn
yeah.
right you are.
Seriously, one of the greatest moments of my entire life, because I'm a fucking loser.
Yeah.
That was so fucking cool.
Top 5 moments of my life. Like getting my dick wet for the first time. It was like amazing.
That is pretty magical.
Touching a boobie was pretty dope.
Also pretty magical.
Having a kid was pretty amazing. And getting the fuck out of the military was pretty goddamn amazing. So,
Oh yeah.
is that 4? Is that 5? It doesn't matter. All right.
That's the number.
What about you?
Stuff.
Like, what are the top moments other than Zahn in your life?
Oh my god. I don't know.
On the
I had a pretty
spot.
fucking boring
I had a
life.
great piece of ice cream like the other day. Piece of ice
Yeah,
cream,
man.
as people
Yeah,
say.
man. I had a peanut butter bar earlier. That was pretty
Oh,
fucking
shit.
sweet. No, it's always authors, man. Like how most people react to meeting like rock stars or movie stars or whatever. That's authors for me. Like the time I got to go to a Q&A with Tesco V, and then later on went to the Meat Men show afterwards and hung out with his lovely wife. They were cool as shit. Yeah, meeting Timothy Zahn.
That's cool. No.
Probably got to say first time I touched boobies as well. That's
it was
magical.
amazing. It was like a huge deal.
I don't want to say the first time I had sex because it was basically I got raped.
Oh, really?
Like I woke up and it was happening and then it was over and I'm like, huh, so I guess I'm not a virgin anymore. So I can't really say that. Maybe the second time I had sex, that was pretty sweet.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess that's really about it. I
Weird.
have a very boring life.
I didn't know this was gonna be a rape story that we're going into. But okay, we're here for it.
I mean, we were together. I woke up. She was there. Apparently, it was awake. Whatever. Shit happens. It's totally not weird.
Well, we're definitely talking about a totally not weird novel today.
Fuck yeah.
The Last Command. So this is by Timothy Zahn, originally released in hardcover by Bantam Spectre in April 1993. It was about 9 after the Battle of Yavin, 5 years after Return of the Jedi. And I gotta say, before we even get into it, because I know there's gonna be a bunch of clone talking and stuff, especially with this like particular novel. This was before any prequel films. This was before any series that was ever released about Clone Wars. This was jumped off from a point of a single line in episode 4 about the Clone Wars. And he created the entire concept of cloning after that. So we can't look at this novel through the lens of like what we know now. We have to look at it in 1993 when no one knew fuck all. Because it completely retextualizes everything.
That's the fucking crazy thing is how close his interpretation of it is what it became.
Yeah.
Like the whole expedited aging process. Like really about the only thing that was a little off is the whole Force thing. But that's also been something that's kind of gone back and forth over the years with, now Legends and canon where, can you clone a Force user and they still have the Force? Can you not? And that's something that it's always been like, oh, I don't know. With this, it's like, yeah, of course you can. Why wouldn't you? But if you have them little monkey lizard things, then it doesn't get the Force.
Sea monkeys. The dog sea monkey things that like nestle on shoulders, I guess, like parrots or something. Like parakeets?
Sort of. They are stuck to nutrient branches, and unless you have the nutrient branch on a backpack, they die.
I just imagine Thrawn like he's got like tails curled around him from these creatures like perched on his shoulders, and he's just like, "I'm safe, bitches. What you got?"
Yeah, so genius. It's like, of course he's taking that many off of Mirror Cure so he can just completely envelop Mount Tannis. Genius.
Right. Oh man. And this is where we see the supposed end, possible end, actual end, depending on your interpretation of the Hand of Thrawn duology after this, whether he was actually alive or not. That's where we see like his end. Like this is his purported end in the moment. That's all.
Yeah,
we
man.
knew.
I mean, it was so artistically done.
Beautiful last lines. If anyone's gonna die,
Yeah.
that's a great way to like die. Just to
Fuck
see
yeah, I mean,
something like
you got
that.
Palon that's like, oh, my throat slit. I'm gonna call some bitches
Yeah.
and throw a fit. And Thrawn's just like, well, you got me there, fucker. Good job.
You got style, kid.
Yeah.
And that's it. I
it's
can
a
see why
boss way to
people would
go
be
out.
bugged by it, but I dig it. Like that's his whole thing is
Mhm.
appreciating style over substance.
Yeah, absolutely.
I dug it. All right, so we got a lot to talk about with this novel.
Oh my god, this was like the most packed book out of the series, and the crazy thing is, it's like there's so much subtlety in the change of the characters and the change of the perspective, but it feels so balanced and so fluid. Like I could not get over just like it's been years since
Yeah.
I've read this one,
Yeah, me
and
too.
fuck man, it's so goddamn good.
It's wild because I've been doing like half an hour increments to and from work for 2
Mhm.
weeks to get through this. And like every time I hear like a little moment, I'm just sort of like taken back to this sort of masterful character analysis that I think Thrawn does so wonderfully that I don't know that people really appreciate that much. Because I've seen so many reviews of people shitting on this novel or just the trilogy in general. And I think
Idiots.
it's from reflection. It's not from, well, this is like literally the first cinematic experience we've had in novels for Star
Mm.
Wars, full stop. Like,
Yeah.
it's easy to sort of look back and nitpick. But if you just put yourself in the moment when these were released, you can't argue that these are wildly cinematic. These are on par with the films, and
Mhm.
they have callbacks that people like bitch and complain about. But it would make sense if you're friends hanging out with Lando and Han or Leia and Luke 5 years later. Of course, you're going to make comments calling back to what happened 5 years ago. Like
Right.
it's just what friends do. We constantly make references. That's like what we do as friends.
Yeah.
So I just don't know why in a novel structure that's strange, but in real life that's okay.
Yeah, it's I can't imagine people bitching about these. Like these books are fucking perfect. Like in this one especially, like it starts like a fucking real Star Wars movie. Like
Yeah.
it's action right from the first fucking page. Like you come into it when there's a battle. Like it's I really can't imagine people talking shit.
Well, it's shocking because people generally do talk shit about this.
Just insane to
trilogy.
me.
And it's weird because like we clearly have talked shit about a number of series that have been released.
Mhm.
But this is like wildly different in my opinion to what has, sort of Disney era Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
We're in this era where there's a vacuum of Star Wars anything. Like there was never even a promise of a prequel series at this point. There was
Mhm.
just like, no, maybe someone's going to make a video game or maybe someone's going to make a youth novel that might work or not. There's going to be a couple splat books that we've already reviewed between Lando and Han Solo and one of Luke and Leia. But really, that's kind of what Star Wars is. It's the 3 movies, or it's just the first movie, and that's it. And then this
Mhm.
comes along and says, no. There's actually much more to tell that has nothing to do with the Emperor and just continues this epic tale of the heroes. What happens after, the true sequel trilogy after Return of the Jedi. And it is so goddamn epic because it not only sets up the Empire as not this bumbling, ridiculous fascist state. No, there's someone who genuinely thinks about strategy, culture, and uses that to then formulate like plans for assaulting and very nearly destroys the entire New Republic in the process.
Oh yeah. And just so beautifully too.
It's so amazing that I mean, there's so many things like Pelion as a commander. He's used to the traditional empirical,
Mhm.
structure of government and military, and so he's doing his best to sort of toe that line. But then he's watching this alien Thrawn, who was in secret promoted to Grand Admiral, and he's genuinely like taking planet after planet, not out of like old school Imperial mass force, but by showing a like dipping his toe in the force sort of pool, and then saying,
Mhm.
look, if you want more, we got more, but we'd rather not kill you. So just join
Right.
us and choose life.
Yeah, just so masterful. Like taking oh fuck, I thought I had the planet written down. But the planet where he ultimately occupies because he gets some ships past the shield
Right.
and then times it just right with Sabaoth to make it look like the Star Destroyer is blasting the planet even through their shield.
Mm-hmm.
Like just
So
fucking
good.
killer
It's
move.
so good. Let's talk about Sabaoth for a second, because this has been revealed in this particular novel straight up. He is a clone of his
Mhm.
original self. There is a cloning facility in this novel, and there's a cloning program. We were
Mhm.
never presented. We were hinted in the last novel, but like there was never any mention of clone wars except for the very first film until now. And so
Yeah.
we understand that cloning is actually a thing in this universe. It wasn't just like this bygone artifact of history, and it's actually like wildly effective. They're able to create functioning soldiers, or at least human automatons, in order to man the Dark Forces fleet
Mhm.
against the New Republic in record times. And no one has ever heard about this in this time scale before. It is like this huge problem. And I know now looking back, it looks sort of ridiculous because we have this whole different contextualization of clones. But from the release of this novel, this is like groundbreaking shit. Like the
Oh yeah.
idea of even cloning is groundbreaking shit, because we didn't really understand what the Clone Wars were at this
Mhm.
time. I
Yeah, and
love
it's
that they leverage that.
yeah. Well, and especially like the magnitude of it, when they actually finally get into the secret compound
Mm-hmm.
that's in Mount Tannis, like it's, I mean, fuck if you've ever played, what was it, The Force Awakens 2 or The Force Unleashed 2, I think, where there's the battle of the cloning
I
tanks,
never
but it's like
finished
just
two.
like the vision and just like it's so massive. That's why they're able to produce them so goddamn fast, because it's just like that's the entire mountain essentially is just cloning tanks, and that's what the Emperor was hiding for so long.
I loved it so much because it presented this idea that will then be called back on through ad nauseum amount of content about the Emperor and clonings in future EU
Hmm.
and new, modern lore. But this was the starting point. And this
Hmm.
really sort of blew off the lid, because clones didn't even know they were clones. You had this Jedi Master who was wildly effective, who was incredibly powerful, that could do genuinely amazing things, that didn't even know he was a clone, and
Right.
yet he could masterfully command the Force on the scale of like hundreds of people's minds controlling them.
Hmm.
Like, we'd never seen that since. That's never been a thing. There's always they put limits on sort of clone and Force uh, implementation. I mean, that was
Yeah.
part of the whole Dark Forces video game, is you couldn't clone the Force, and they were continuously
Hmm.
trying to, and then with diminishing returns and stuff. And you even brought it up in like Jedi Knight video game and Jedi Knight 2 video game.
Hmm.
It's just never
The
like a
Force
successful
Unleashed,
thing. And the
like
Force,
yeah.
that one, like sort of like, popped the lid off everything and just went crazy with it.
Hmm.
Super fun way too. But I love that this is the first, and I love that we got this sort of first taste of it. And like, it genuinely blew me away that,
Oh yeah.
sorry, my screen just went black, that we were allowed to sort of get a window into what cloning could mean. and that this entire Katana fleet could be actually leveraged. And Thrawn's brilliance in his machinations, understanding culture, understanding motivations, understanding individuals and what they would do. He was a true student of history, to the point where he was like those weird chess masters, like seeing 10 steps ahead before anyone got anywhere.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that was the fun part too. Is always the back and forth with him and Palon, like Palon being like, "That's not right." Just like the whole going to that last planet. Oh fuck, I'm terrible at taking notes. Apparently, all of these look like I'm extremely high when I'm writing this shit. But yeah, like oh, they're going to be going to this place. Nah, they're not. They're coming here. But all of our reports say they're coming here. Yeah, but they're coming here. And then they do, and then they, ultimately end up dying. But yeah, I love that shit between the two of them.
Yeah, so the machinations between the Thrawn and his second in command, Paleon, were always fascinating. But we also got the genuine conflict between Thrawn and Sabayoth. Like, he's like, this dude needs to fuck off and die already. Like, we don't need him. But I know that if I didn't have these Yasumiri, he would like crush my face or something. Like,
right.
So I have to respect him. I don't want to fuck him, but let's just let him do his thing and keep eyes. Let's babysit his ass as best we can. And you can see the frustration with Sabayoth. He doesn't know he's a clone. He just knows that he is sort of recontextualizing what it means to be a Jedi Master. He understands the training that his real self experienced in the Old Republic. He understands the lessons learned by Emperor Palpatine, and he's sort of taken and recontextualized all of those and saying, we need to be control, not because we want to be control, but because these lesser people, they're going to kill us if we're not. Like, It's a completely different way of viewing good and bad and dark and light. And what's so brilliant about this, and what also, we talked about this last book review as well, is that it brings Luke in this presentation of, I don't care that I saved my father. I can save this douchebag. And I'm going to do everything I can to save this douchebag, which flies in the face of all the actual sequel film trilogy we got, because Luke is actually compassionate and considerate and intellectual and caring, like the person we fell in love with. And we see him doing that with this truly massive douchebag, which is frustrating.
Yeah, it's like, this dude is fucking evil and insane.
There's like even a moment where Mara is just like, should we just kill this bitch? Like, let's just kill this bitch. He should not be alive. And Luke's like, nah, let's hold off. He might turn the cheek. Like,
why turn Vader?
Yeah. If I can turn Vader, I can turn anyone. And okay, what did you think about the whole Mara Jade reflecting on Palpatine's like echoing of his last, "You will kill Luke Skywalker"?
I thought it was fun. Just the fact that he was that powerful that his shit stuck with her. I mean, and it's funny too, because at the end of the book, when she kills the clone Luke, spoiler people, they found his hand and decided to make a clone out of the hand. But yeah, like that moment where she kills the clone Luke and then the voices are gone. It's like, that's fucking funny. He apparently wasn't that strong of a ghost to actually understand the difference.
See, I don't even think it was him at all. I think it was just this residual trauma that she experienced that she interpreted as him. Do you think it was really him, like echoing through eternity or whatever?
See, I don't fuck, how do I put this? So I don't think it was like an actual like conscious version of him. Like, it was almost like I don't know, think of it like a Horcrux. Like, it's just a small, tiny sliver of him, because he was with her mentally when he died. Like, he sent the image of his death, even though we know that wasn't his death, and she later on finds out that's not actually how he died. But it's almost like maybe that sliver of his consciousness that was reaching out to her at that point has stuck with her, because that's like that was the last thing he said before he was killed, was kill Luke Skywalker. And I almost feel like it was like maybe like a tick or something that just burrowed into her Force conscious and just kind of stuck with her.
Yeah.
Like either that or it was just she's fucking crazy, and that was
Well, it's interesting because it's
her
not
subconscious.
Like it's not like she's like fully autonomous and in control of herself. She was taken as a child, and she was molded and forced to do these different things and be trained in these certain ways. I mean, she's not in control of herself at all, and she's clearly not in control of her thoughts or her behaviors. Her own mind is a mystery to herself, and we see that repeated over and over again because she's like not even shy about, I'm going to kill Luke Skywalker. She tells Leia, I'm going to kill your brother. It's going to happen.
Right. I just love that whole dynamic. It's just like, oh, damn, well, maybe we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
It's like, just kind of blows it off.
I'm curious about your opinion on this. Is Leia not concerned because she knows her brother is like a super fucking badass? Or is she so confident that Mara is just experiencing echoes of trauma that it's not real?
I'd honestly say both. Like, she knows that Luke can handle himself.
Yeah.
And she's also, I mean, she's a fucking career politician. She's a diplomat. Like,
Right.
she can read people.
Right.
Plus, she also has the Force, and she's working on, building more Force consciousness and shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a mixture of the two.
I love that dynamic too, because like Leia as a character, we see, especially in this novel more than any other, that she is towing that line. She's like sort of spanning that gap between Jedi training and diplomat. We get more context about why Mon Mothma doesn't want her to sort of go off and train, because there's only so few people that Mon Mothma can trust with the New Republic, and that Leia Organa Solo is just one of the rare few who is actually effective at her goddamn job. I remember being in the military and being assigned to so many extra stupid fucking duties with this other sergeant, Sergeant Tierney, and we would regularly have these conversations like, why are we always called on to do this bullshit when all these other sergeants are going home to their wives and their kids and having their fun and their lives? And it came down to a sergeant overhearing us and coming up and telling us, because you guys are effective and you do the job and we know it'll be done right. That's why we keep bugging you to do it. And I was just like,
and that's why you never do good at anything ever.
And that's why I've turned into a piece of shit.
That's just don't ever do anything good for anybody, and they'll never ask you for it.
Yeah. But that's how I saw Leia, and I sort of like identified with that moment when my mother was like, I need you here. Like, you have to stay here. Like, you can't just run off. And she knew it too. It's not like it's a one-sided thing. Like she's some, soldier that just does what she's told. She knows. First of all, she's pregnant, so there's like, this split focus of loyalty in the moment. But ultimately, she's fought her whole life for democracy and this idea of a representative galaxy, and she's going to do anything she can to see that realized, even if it means shortcutting her own personal development.
Yeah.
It's completely changed in sort of future, like Disney era stuff, but I find this version of it so much more satisfying because it's a conscious decision, and it's not so much like in the moment, in the time, like she's being ordered to, like I felt was the case in the Disney era. It's not.
100%. It's like she was a rebel when there wasn't a need for rebels.
Yeah.
And it was so forced and dumb. Yeah, no, God, she was just so amazing in this. And another aspect of her, like just the whole pregnancy thing.
Oh my
like
gosh.
She has the twins. That blew my mind because I completely fucking forgot about it. And just the idea of what it was like for her to have twins that were clearly strong in the Force. Like she communicated with them
in the womb. During childbirth.
God, it was just so insane. Like, no, it's fine. You're gonna see me instead of just hear me. And like sending out like
Oh
good
my
juju, like some
gosh.
calm vibrations or whatever. Like, it was just insane to like really think about. It's like when we think about the Force, we think about, you know, the basics,
Lifting rocks.
minor foresight, so you can stop blaster bolts, manipulating shit to lift it, you know, manipulating people's minds.
Mm.
But just the idea of using it in such a non-violent way, it's just so. It's not something you see, especially in, you know, fucking Disney era shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just so goddamn beautiful.
That whole sequence of her giving birth with Han genuinely invested and just being present for the first time in like forever, because he's never really had a chance, because he's continuously fighting this war even after the war is over. I like that whole sequence. I immediately connected with it, just reflecting back to my own wife, having our children and our own experience. I could not help but just openly weep at like the genuine like godlike experience of witnessing creation. Like you're creating life when a sperm successfully gets into an egg and then it starts to multiply cellularly. That's life, but we don't really conceptualize that until we see it come out of a vagina for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this book, in that moment when she was like speaking to her children in the midst of fucking childbirth, and I've witnessed childbirth, and it's like chaotic and insane and incredibly painful. I'm so glad I don't ever have to experience it. And then to like see the child come out, and the fact that the idea of the mother communicating with them throughout the process because of the fear and anxiety that the child is having. This not even real thing yet is happening as it's coming out of her. And then to see the genuine love and like appreciation, and like it just took me right back to my two kids when they were born, and I was just crying like a baby, reliving those moments through Han and Leia, and genuinely making me fucking angry with the sequel trilogy, with Han completely forsaking fucking Kylo Ren and shit.
Yeah, that's like, that's not Han Solo.
No.
I've read the goddamn books. Like, he did everything for his goddamn kids. He didn't just abandon them and shit. Even when Jason turns, you know, spoiler,
in the future,
he's still there.
Yeah.
And that's after killing Chewbacca.
Oh, dude.
Fuck. Yeah, I fucking hate Disney. It's so hard because it's like I try to stay positive. Not very hard.
Nah.
But it's like then you get back to stuff like this and it's just like, why? Where did they go so wrong?
Yeah. It's got to be a story group. It has to be.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand any other way. In any case, in this particular novel, we have that beautiful moment of the children being born. And I love the role of, it's only sort of like tertiary explained maybe in the last book, and it's sort of like explained a little bit more in this. But the life debt rolls over to like the next of kin, the spouse of the person and stuff. There was a moment at the very end when Luke and Mara Jade are facing off with Luke and Sabayoth. And Han Solo is just like, look, Lando, Chewbacca, we're fucked. We're probably not getting out of here. You need to destroy this cloning facility. You need to get the fuck out of here and just like abandon us because we don't think we're going to make it. And Lando's just like, no, I'm not going to fucking abandon you, Holmes. Like, we're bros. We're going to do this. And Han does this thing with Chewbacca. He's like, look, you're the only person that can protect. Oh, I'm getting emotional. They can protect my kids. Like, I'm going to give up, like, me and Leia together. We're willing to sacrifice our lives for this new republic. You have to survive to take care of our children. And Chewbacca's just like, done. Not a question.
Right.
Like, okay, I don't want to do it, but okay, I will do it. It was the most impactful moment of almost the entire novel for me. Like, you had the birth of the children, and then Han just straight up saying, we're going to fucking die. Chewie, I need you to do me a solid. And Chewie was just like, fuck yeah. It's like that's Star Wars in a fucking. That's it.
Definitely. Well, and it makes sense too, just on a practical level, because Wookiees live multiple hundreds of years.
Right.
People not so much. So, like it would make sense that until their natural or otherwise death, the lineage would continue, assuming that the kids weren't cunts.
Right.
Which, well, spoiler.
It takes a while to get there first. It takes a while, but they get there.
Yeah.
2 of them end up being cunts, actually.
2 of them
of the Solos, yeah. So first it was Anakin. That was
Anakin wasn't a cunt. Well, I don't remember him dying, so I guess I don't really remember that far. Most of the shit that I read with Anakin was him just being little Annie, and
you know what? That might be fair. I think I might be confusing Anakin with his brother,
with Jason.
Yeah,
because it's like Jason's the only one that was the asshole. I mean.
Anakin dies
Jaina's an asshole in a different kind of way.
Yeah. I mean, Jaina, didn't she side with a bunch of Sith for a while during her brother Jason's like dark reign, and then she ended up coming back,
if I remember correctly. Like I know she trained with that. That's the era that I'm a little fuzzy on. Like I haven't read the entirety of the Legacy series, so I'm little fuzzy. I know she hung out with Mandalorians for a hot minute to train to know how to fight, unlike a Jedi. But
in any case, for this novel, let's just focus on this. So those moments were really, really impactful for me. I love the dynamic of Sabaoth not realizing he's a clone, and then when he's presented with the concept of being a clone, he just outright rejects. Like, there's no fucking way I could be a clone. How is that possible? And Luke's just like, listen. This is why you do what you do. And he's just like, fuck that.
It's like, nope. Raining the ceiling from the sky now.
Yes. And what did you think about the end of this where Mara was really the hero at the end? I mean, Lando and Chewie and stuff were massive heroes destroying the cloning facility. But like for the whole Sabaoth encounter, Mara was it. Were you okay with sort of handing off the hero mantle of Luke to Mara?
Oh yeah. Yeah, because even then that still makes Luke a bit of the hero anyways, because he's not in it for the glory.
Yeah.
So it's the end, not the way you get to the end that matters. And I mean that was her redemption arc. Like she had to have some sort of redemption, and she did by killing Luke Skywalker, and then taking the rest out.
Taking Sabaoth straight down. I liked it personally because it fed into the entire Star Wars mythos of the time that nowadays people pretend like didn't exist, where women took control and were empowered and were powerful. Like we seem to be in this era where people don't remember that being a thing or pretend like it never existed.
Oh yeah.
But it was like always a thing with Star Wars. Like it was Leia initially, and then it's in the sequel trilogy, which is this Heir to the Empire trilogy, it was Mara Jade. She had this great arc of being the hand of the fucking Emperor, focused on turning her life around, but she's completely tormented by this echo of Palpatine, who is this incredibly, immensely powerful Sith Lord that is just perpetually staying with her, telling her to kill Luke Skywalker. She is doing everything she can to live a normal life, but she's just haunted by this continuous focus. And then when she finally meets the dude, he's not such a dick. And she's like sort of struggling. They kind of like survive together. They kind of become friends, but she's still like tormented by it. So she's like, I have to do it. It has to happen. And when she like finally has a conversation with him late in this novel where he's like, look, I didn't even kill Palpatine. I don't know what the fuck you're going on about. That wasn't me. Whatever you're seeing is not real. That was my dad. I came to this trying to convert my dad, not to kill your master. And look, he wasn't even a good guy anyway. I don't know why you're having such a big fucking hard time with this. And she's just like, wait, what? Huh? No, this can't. It was almost like it was like some weird spell that she was put under by Palpatine.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that was 5 years of her every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes perfect sense. Well, and that's the thing I don't get either, too, is the whole dismissal of strong female leads in this. It's like she is a fucking addict.
Mm.
At her core, she's an addict. And even then, she's rebuilt her life. Like, she's Talon Card's secondhand man, and she's only been with him for a few months, and she's like already like right in line to take over Card's legacy should anything happen. Like, how is that not strong? Like, that's literally picking yourself up out of the gutter and remaking yourself, and successfully doing it. That's so frustrating.
Yeah, it's almost like people don't read. Like, they just like to complain on the YouTubes instead of actually reading stuff. It is really aggravating for people who actually have read or revisit these novels, because you do realize that all of the complaints that we're experiencing nowadays is clearly because people haven't read these novels, and that the commentary about Star Wars is out of ignorance, not out of understanding. And so for those of us who genuinely appreciate this for what it is and how it developed originally and where it's gone through the EU, like, we get it more so than literally anyone else. And that's not to put us on a pedestal or anything, because we're still fucking nerds.
I'll put us on a fucking pedestal because we're pretty goddamn awesome.
I'll stand on a potato crate. Like, give me a potato crate. I'll probably break through it, but I'll try. But genuinely, like, we get it because we've lived this for 45 years, 40-ish years. This is like, in a weird way, like this is what we love. So like, how are you going to tell us what Star Wars is when we fucking know, because we grew up with it, for fuck's sake?
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the favorite aspects of the trilogy, not so much this last novel, was Han was almost as brilliant as Thrawn. We get hints in the movies, drifting in the garbage, stealing uniforms, etc. You know, Han is always like one of those people that seems to stumble into information and knowledge, but there's like this sort of background of experience that helps guide that stumbling. That I do genuinely feel like he's much wiser than he presents himself as being.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially in the original films, but certainly in these, you know, sort of sequel trilogy novels and such in the EU, he's much smarter. And how could you not be? You were an Imperial soldier. You joined the rebellion reluctantly because of love. You married this princess. You had children that are like steeped in this concept that is completely foreign to you, the Force. You don't understand it. You just accept it because your best friend is a master in it, you know, in the form of Luke. And, you know, you desperately love your family. And so you're going to do everything you can to ensure their success, which means you have to be separate from them as an agent, unhappily in most cases, in spreading democracy across the galaxy. And this echoes the reality of our own lives. If you're someone in a position of influencing others, you're often put in a position of forcing yourself away from what is comfortable and what you love in order to be an agent for that greater whatever it is. Whether it's politics. In the American Revolution, people completely abandoned their homes in order to fight against this insurmountable colonization force, the British militia. There's no evidence of it ever succeeding in all of human history, and yet despite all that information, you're standing up against it. That's what Han is doing against the Galactic Empire for literally no reason other than I might get my dick wet with Leia, or I got kids.
That's a
because
pretty
I got my
good
dick
goddamn
wet with...
reason. Just saying.
I just think it's so amazing that he is so invested and so effective because of the circumstance, not because he wants to, you know? He's constantly reiterating in this novel how much he wants his wife to take time off, how he's never been able to spend time with his wife on their honeymoon, how his wife is just obsessed with the work because of Mon Mothma. You could easily paint this novel as Mon Mothma, or this story in general, being a monster. But the reality is democracy takes like sacrifice. And we see that on a level in this novel specifically, which just resonates because of current political trends. with me, in special ways that, like, I get it. Like, I genuinely get it. And I find myself, like, wishing I could be Han Solo, because then I would have, like, a mission or a purpose, instead of feeling helpless and just, like, watching shit happen without a voice, Like, I
Right.
wish I could fly a Millennium Falcon with a fucking Wookiee and do something for someone, because right now I'm just like hands in the air, like it's falling apart, people, and people are
Yeah.
like celebrating, like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. I mean, it's nice to know that once I get deported because I'm not a US citizen somehow,
Right.
that I'm not gonna be going very far. I'm just gonna go, a couple miles up the street onto the Hill Air Force Base, because they're turning that into an internment camp.
Is that real?
That is real
What
from
the
the Orange
fuck?
Fuhrer. They are setting up plans to make that, or sorry, not an internment camp, because that's bad. It's an
Right.
immigration camp.
Oh, well, that's nice. There's probably pillows.
Yeah. Yeah, because they figured out, oh, wait, we can't put that many people in Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah. That's so fucked in so many
Yeah.
fucking ways. That's what we're
Yeah, so
living in.
I understand wanting to have a Millennium Falcon and a Wookiee to just blow shit up. Yeah.
To fly off and fucking fight tyranny. I fucking wish.
Yeah.
He got choked up with Han, told Chewie to take care of the twins. Yeah, me too, man. I definitely felt that.
Yeah,
Thrawn
that's the thing, man. There is just so much goddamn heart in this.
Mhm.
Like, so many times, like, I mean, I've had that happen in the past with certain books. I mean, like, finding out about Chewie dying, or finding out about Mara dying. It's shit like that. It's you get choked up because
Yeah.
you are so invested in the characters.
Especially
But
Chewie. I mean,
it's like,
fuck.
this is where it began, and this hit just as fucking hard as shit that's years down the road, and
Mhm.
so wonderful.
Yeah. Thrawn is such a good leader, and his troops are so well motivated that it got him thinking, what would his version of the Empire have looked like if he won the war? What do you think? Would Thrawn have been a better Imperial leader than Palpatine?
Oh yeah, I guarantee it would have lasted longer. Like, just plain and simple. I mean, he was a genius. He understood people. He understood how to be a ruler without being like a fucking murderer, I guess. Because like, that was the whole thing. Every time they were trying to take a planet, it's like, we're not trying to destroy this fucking thing. We just want to have it. Whereas the
we need the
Emperor, it's like,
resources.
oh, let's just glass this planet because they said I looked silly in my new robe.
Yeah.
Like, I think it would have been much more effective. I mean, it would have been the same. Like, it's fucking evil, but it would have been probably a longer reign.
Yeah, the Emperor is very much like Trump, emotionally motivated. He just strikes out in the moment because someone mentions something to him, and he's just like reactionary, not forward thinking. I think the flaw of Thrawn was that he saw so many steps in the future, he didn't look at the now, especially with the Nogri, particularly with the Nogri, is that he knew that there was some sort of upset or kerfuffle, or there was something going on culturally with them. But because he was so focused on a galactic war, he wasn't thinking of the minutia of what could upset him from within. And this arguably could be, said like, well, Pelion was telling him the whole time, like, you should probably look into this. Like, this is a genuine thing. And he's like, don't worry about it. I'm looking at a larger scale thing. People are going to be doing this. He needed to be able to trust the people around him instead of continuously trying to show them the greater vision. He should have listened to them. And if he did, he probably wouldn't have got his ass stabbed.
Right. Well, and that's the crazy part too, because he did when he wanted to. I mean, just like when that one tractor ensign was doing things, and like, everybody thought he was gonna get fucking murdered or some shit, and nope, he became a captain right then and there, like jumped rank like a motherfucker, because he genuinely wanted to know what that kid did, and he saw the brilliance in it. Yeah, if he had, if he stepped back, definitely would have been a very different experience. Listening to people.
It would have been strange because if he would have given the authority that he gave that one ensign that was trying to capture Luke Skywalker, who pulled this maneuver that was only pulled once before that got him out of the tractor beam, if he would have taken that as an inspiration of saying, I need to trust my people more and not only rely on myself, he probably would have lived and he probably would have succeeded. Because there was multiple times when Pelion was like, maybe we should try this. Maybe you should listen to this. Maybe you should do this. And Thrawn was constantly just like, no, 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 no. And this is why. And ultimately Thrawn failed. So you can't say he was always right when you end up with, this disastrous result. He was wildly effective. I think maybe this is why I like Thrawn so much, is because he's presented almost as if he's this force-wielding superhero, but he clearly is he doesn't understand the Force. He is a little bit terrified of it, and so he goes out of his way to protect himself from it. He knows tactics and art and culture, and he uses that to his best implementation. He relies on inventiveness with his subordinates, but he doesn't really listen to anything that's conventional. He always thinks outside of the box rather than within the traditional military box. And I think that might have been his undoing. So we're presented with this incredible mastermind not profiteer, but general, student, whatever, who genuinely could have completely destroyed the New Republic if it weren't for his lack of vision, which ironically, because that's what he's known for. I don't know. Kind of amazing.
Yeah, been a fun version to see.
Yeah, I don't think he would have ever been able to rule an empire. Like, he can conquest, and we've seen this with the 2 sequel trilogies and the modern version and stuff. I think the version of Thrawn that was created by Timothy Zahn, he's great at conquest. He's not so great at ruling, because he thinks people just fall in line, and they really don't. That's the heart of the fucking rebellion, is that you step on us long enough, we're going to fucking stand back up and be angry about it. And so, to Chris's question, I just don't think he would have been a good ruler.
Yeah, I do wonder what he would have done. Because of course, Sabaoth, like that shit wasn't going to happen. That dude was fucking insane, to the point where he, imprisoned him essentially. Yeah, so I wonder what would have happened had he, ultimately ended up taking out the New Republic. Because you're right. I don't think I could see him actually being like the head motherfucker.
Yeah,
like head of the military. Yeah, definitely. Like that's his sandbox. But sitting on a throne all menacingly, I couldn't see that.
Yeah, steepling his hands.
Yes.
Chris loved the storyline about the coalition of rogues and scoundrels, because the best aspects of the New Republic were rebels like them. What do you think about that whole story arc? Because we had the heroes looking for, realizing that clones were running this, trying to figure out why clones were capable of being bred so quickly. And then, of course, trying to stop it with the cloning facility on Mount Tantiss and stuff. And then Luke sort of researching it, and everyone's being stopped by Thrawn at every sort of avenue. Sabaoth is sort of put in a corner, but then he ends up reversing the roles and, surprising the Empire by forcing the locals to sort of attack the garrison and stuff. What do you think about the whole storyline of the scoundrels uniting?
Oh man, I loved it. Like that's the shit that I wish we would get in modern Star Wars stuff, is just like the underbelly. Like we got it a little bit with The Mandalorian, especially season 1, but it's we don't get to see that aspect of it, and that's so much more interesting in most cases than an ultimate good guy versus an ultimate bad guy, because it's these motherfuckers are real. They're criminals, but they're not bad guys. They just do shit because that's how you have to fucking hustle to make a living. I loved it, and especially the whole just, you know, there's a mole in the midst, and
Yeah.
there's a mole of the mole, and just like you don't know who you can trust and shit. And even knowing everything that's going on, you still question, like, wait, what if it really is that person? It's like, I know it's not, because it's clearly this fucking person, because he was just hanging out with Thrawn and threatened to be murdered. But that little thread gets in there of like, maybe. It was so well done. Like, that in and of itself could have been a book. Like, just the whole fucking card rounding up all the fucking scoundrels and shit and saying, hey, yo, I got in to get paid. Let's fuck some shit up.
Yeah, I love the criminal syndicate interaction in this novel, particularly because it's not only showing that like the criminals need to see opportunity, and that's how they exist. They capitalize on, you know, they're opportunists in general. So they see a hole and they fill it either with smuggling, you know, in the now illegal goods, or on behalf of military organizations, you know, they're sort of smuggling material and gear, but they're making a living. They see a hole and they're filling it. But they don't want to take sides. And that's probably why I love Talon Karrde so much as this new type of character in this trilogy. He didn't take a side until he was absolutely forced to take a side. And it was just because Thrawn was trying to tamp down the scoundrel element that ended up being the sort of decision point of the criminal element turning on the side of the New Republic. And I just love that so much. And even the New Republic was like, wait a second, we're paying Talon Karrde, the smuggler? And it was like, who fucking approved that? And Leia's like, Luke Skywalker. And it was just like, what? He's not even, he's a fucking Jedi. He has nothing to do with the New Republic. Why are we doing this? Mom Motham's just like, simmer down. We're going to allow it.
Right. Well, and then to have a fucking slicer, like a smuggler slicer in their midst, like at the top or at the highest, most clearance, just fucking with their shit because he's bored. It's just so great.
I love this so much.
Like, oh yeah, no, that Imperial code that you guys couldn't break. Yeah, man, I fucking cracked that like an hour ago. Yeah. I mean, you guys want it or something? Just so goddamn
nonchalant
good. Too. which that leads into like one of my favorite aspects of the book was the whole Delta Source thing. Like, I completely forgot about Delta Source, and for it to be some fucking trees sending off some like Morse code signals, like the Emperor was, if nothing else, he was a fucking genius with spy work and espionage. Like that motherfucker was sketchy as hell. And yeah, that shit was so cool. Like, oh, it's got to be one of the droids. And even when that moment's happening, like Leia's watching some droids like trimming the trees, and it's like, that droid's looking quite fishy. And then it's just a chance of occurrence that she's looking at the bottom of a tree, and it's like, you know, that looks like a code that it's flashing. And then they just uproot all the fucking trees. It's like, God, that was so cool.
I love that aspect of it. It was genuine, like old school Mission Impossible type, like spy thriller type shit. It's so good.
Yeah.
We got so many different genres of action adventure in this novel, which is why I think Timothy Zahn really deserves to be, you know, in the pantheon of great Star Wars authors, because he not only saw what George Lucas did on a cinematic scale, but he replicated it and evolved it using the exact same characters, moving down the sort of timeline and building genuinely original content, which was then stolen and repurposed still today, still is being repurposed in like fucking Ahsoka, for example. Like his legacy is being given an assignment and then creating a genuine Star Wars experience of cinematic scale, hitting every fucking chord along the way. And no one else outside of like the X-Wing novels and, you know, the sort of the EU, no one in modern Disney Star Wars has been able to strike that chord. Like it's like the bell has been rung and you cannot re-ring the bell. No one else can do what's been done, but you could just repurpose it, like make movies from it, because it's so goddamn cinematic. Like, there's not just like this
Right.
X-Wing battle with scoundrels against the Empire happening in the sky. You've got Lando and Chewie and his whole strike team trying to destroy a cloning facility. Meanwhile, Luke and Mara and Han and Leia are trying to infiltrate and stop this insane clone Jedi Master who is wildly powerful with an ex-Emperor's hand. Like, this is like genuinely cinematic shit, and we still haven't seen it 40 fucking years later. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's the frustrating thing, man. Every time I just think back to the interview of, well, Marvel, it's easy because we had decades of material to use. With Star Wars, we didn't. And it's like, you fucking did, bitch. You ruined it. But I mean, in good news, she's retiring. So
I actually saw a retraction of that.
Oh, really? God damn it.
Yeah.
Of course not. It's just going to be like every other fucking dictator out there. They're going to stay in power because they can.
She is the Lucasfilm Putin.
Yeah.
Never ending.
Yep.
Oh, man. What did you think about the assault of Coruscant with the asteroids and the cloaking devices and shit?
Just how boss of a fucking move is that? And especially, like, not just the fact of setting up asteroids with cloaking shields. Because, I mean, that one gets through. Guess what? The fucking planet's probably decimated.
Yeah, dinosaurs were fucking eviscerated.
Like, just one. But yet he brought 22, which is a fuck ton. But on top of that, the motherfucker has everybody set up their shit. So it's like, fuck, there's probably like 300 asteroids out there that are cloaked. And then, of course, to have the foresight to have like a self-destruction thing on them. So somebody finds one. They can't just like reverse engineer it to figure out how to counteract it.
Yeah.
God, that was so good. So fucking good.
I love the sort of the mystery aspect of it. Again, this film hits so many genre like bullet points. It's just all over the place in how it's presenting the story. It's so great. Not only was that beautifully done, but then the assassination, or it wasn't even assassination, it was attempted. Thrawn sent in a like early team to like work their way into and then ultimately kidnap Leia for Sabaoth. And that whole thing with Mara sort of breaking out, running into Han Solo and Lando Calrissian as she's like, moving out, and Bel Iblis like putting a gun in her head, and then like all the shit happening, and they're just like, she's still probably the reason.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's because fucking homeboy, the only one that survived, is like, oh yeah, it was Mara Jade. Dead. That's God, yeah, that whole fucking raid sequence, that shit was like, I was tired, man. It was probably like 2:30 in the morning. I'm ready to go to bed. I hit that chapter. I'm like, I can't go to bed until this is done.
I'm stuck. I gotta
so
finish this.
Fucking good.
I loved it so much.
Yeah, and like just the dynamic between the two of them, like, and I think that's part of the reason why Leia was so trusting in her is they connected minds so many times, like just nonchalantly. And Leia is a little bit more in tune than Mara Jade is because she feels like a lot of her shit was lost when her connection with the Emperor was lost. So it's like I feel like she's an open book up until the very end of the book when she's actively going through techniques that the Emperor taught her to shut her mind down. So it's like I almost feel like Leia probably got glimpses of her inner psyche when moments like that were happening.
Wow, yeah. No, I love that. Before we shut down this conversation, I really do want to talk because everyone, including myself at times, has made fun of the idea of the Luke clone of Luke. And let's go past the naming convention because I think the setup is genuinely brilliant. Like in Empire, he loses his hand. Yeah. If you're going to need DNA material to create a clone, that is like the source. He is the son of the Immaculate Conception Force God in, Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader. He is the most powerful Jedi full stop of all time, full stop, according to George Lucas. Like, he is like the shit. If you're going to create a clone from anyone, why would it not be his hand? And what a brilliant fucking thing to have Sabayoth use his hand to create a clone, to test him, to make sure that he is like of value or quality or whatever in order to join him. And then when Mara Jade defeats him, Luke takes his father's lightsaber that Obi-Wan Kenobi gave him and gives it to Mara Jade. Like, you have made such wonderful progress. I want you to have this.
Yeah, just fucking stand-up guy.
It's just so beautiful and brilliant and just like, Luke is so goddamn good. How the fuck did the sequel trilogy get made?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, even in the books, when he starts to sort of like tickle at the dark side, he's still the ultimate good.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
Makes me so goddamn angry to see where he went. And like, there's people championing it. Have you not read anything? Like, do you not know this character? I don't get it.
Right? Like, even the expanded novelizations of those books still, like, he's not Luke Skywalker that we all know.
Drives me nuts. It's almost as if there's not 40 years of content to know a character.
Right.
No, I loved revisiting this trilogy. I loved going back to these moments where I thought they were silly and sort of, ridiculous, and then finding value in them and sort of recontextualizing the entirety of this trilogy with not my own Star Wars experience, but the experience that it was released in the time. And through that lens, this was goddamn amazing. It was the first three films and then this. That's the only cinematic Star Wars we had.
Yeah, that's the thing I just kept really... Because, like I said, I think with the Heir to the Empire review, I didn't know these were the first things that came out. Yeah. Like, when I first discovered these... it says 1993 on it. The last movie came out in 83. Like, that's a fucking decade. So, okay, there's got to be... Or, sorry, 91 was one of those. Whatever. That's almost a decade since the last movie and this book has come out. It's like, this can't be the beginning. And then, going back through shit and realizing, fuck, this was it. This was the start of the golden age of Star Wars. It just makes it just that much more special going through it.
Yeah. And I'm very glad that, we're able to revisit this stuff and talk about it, because it reignites my passion for Star Wars instead of diminishing it like I feel like I have been lately,
Yeah, that's the good thing, is like these still exist. So when the Acolyte comes out, we've got something to go back to.
100%. All right. Chris loves that Sabayoth, his visions all came true. Mara killing Luke, her kneeling before him, a great nod to a certain point of view angle. I always like that idea of the future is sort of unknown, is malleable. You see moments and you're not sure how, like, it's probably going to happen, but you don't know the context around it happening. I think that's a very interesting way to approach it. And I also loved, like, when Luke was forced to face off against his clone and he immediately reflected back on the dark side cave on Dagobah with his father. And he was just like completely re-envisioning that moment. And as it's like sort of child Adam reliving that through Luke's eyes in this novel. I'm just like, holy shit. Like, yeah, this is exactly it. He saw himself as Darth Vader, and now he's seeing himself literally fighting off against himself. Like, these sort of echoes, I can understand how people could be frustrated by this sort of trite banality of it. I really like it because it feels like it's paying homage, and it's actually like adding to the mythology rather than just a cheap, connective thrill to it. So I appreciate it. Yeah. Even that argument with Lando and Han about the Millennium Falcon and losing the satellite. And Lando's like, well, next time I'll just let you go through the Death Star. Like, Yeah, it can be seen as just like, two old friends like complaining and bitching at each other in a, jocular friendly way. But you can also see it as sort of like, oh, come on, you're just bringing up this other thing that happened in the movies to pay off. No, I feel like this is
No,
what friends would
it's
do.
it's all it's all contextual. Like
Yeah.
if you don't have everything else in front of it, then yeah, it's a stupid throwaway line. But when you're reading the rest of the book, it's like, no, that's fucking great. That's how they would talk. These are real people.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate that. And we might be able to buy a cigar now. It's been a really long time.
Hell yeah.
We can kill ourselves on camera with cigars.
Fuck yeah, it's been a minute.
All right, so that is, I don't know, is there anything else you wanted to talk about with this?
No, we pretty much covered everything.
The main bullet points.
About the only thing I really made note of that we didn't actually cover was just the like the stormtroopers. Like in this book, they're supposed to be like super soldiers,
right?
And they still suck. I think that's about the only thing I got. So
this
no, man, it's
so
just
much like Dark Forces video game to me.
Yeah, and god damn it, I really desperately want to sit down and play that one again. It's so
tough.
good. Like I don't care that it's outdated as fuck graphic wise. That game still to this day holds up.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a good game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything else to add. I would challenge anyone who claims to be a Star Wars fan and doesn't understand why old school fans are frustrated to read this, and it might explain a lot of things to you. There's so much gold in Star Wars that exists already.
Yeah, it's like just over 1,000 pages for the trilogy.
Yeah,
it's not that bad. Like, and it's so easy to eat this shit up. Like, so easy. Like you'll waste not waste. You'll destroy an afternoon. Just like, oh, I'm gonna sit down and read a chapter, and then next thing you know, it's dark out. So good.
Right. And if you're listening to audiobooks, you get all of the production value with that, and the sort of voices and everything. It's so much fun for those of you who are stuck in commutes and stuff and maybe listening to it that way. Do yourselves a favor. Check it out. It's totally worth it. Thank you all so much for tuning in, both live and chat or after the fact. We invite you to subscribe to this channel. Click the bell to get notified about our next video. Also, you can become a member of the Infernal Brotherhood. You can pick up the Infernal Brotherhood merch at our store. We don't really have initiation ceremonies, but if you want to do something crazy and film it, we'll watch it.
We can figure something out, I'm sure.
Yeah. So until the Infernal Brotherhood convenes again, my fellow scruffy-looking nerf herders, may the Force be with you.
It's past my bedtime.
I really love this book. It's so good.